This summer I'm working with teenagers, and they're around ages 14 to 16. They're high school students. And I figured when I started this youth program, we would start at 10 in the morning because youth are used to waking up early for school, and I figured, oh, let's give them a little break. Let's let them sleep in. It's better for adolescents to have a little bit more sleep in the morning for their growing. So let's have them come at 10. It'll be great. They'll be refreshed. We'll have a great day. Well, 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, the third week, and these youth are coming in looking completely dead. They're exhausted, they can barely open their eyes, they are not engaged, they barely say anything. And this happens about for the first hour of our day, which really puts a damper on things. So around the third or fourth time they came in looking this way, I decided to engage them and figure out what was going on. So, I sat there and I just looked at them and I said, you guys look like you haven't slept. And they said, well, and I said, what's going on? And they said, well, we don't sleep. So what do you mean you don't sleep? And they were like, well, our generation, we don't sleep. We stay up all night. Like, well, really? What do you do all night? What's keeping you up? And they said, well, we're on our phones. Your phones? What are you doing on your phones? We're on Netflix. Okay, Netflix. Now, I didn't even know you could watch Netflix on your phone, but that's what they're doing. And I asked, well, why are you watching Netflix at night? And they said, well, during the daytime, our parents are telling us what to do all day. We have regulated watching schedules, so we can't necessarily watch what we want to watch. And while our parents are sleeping is really the only time we get to watch the shows we want to see. Many adults would take this information and start to automatically go into problem-solving mode and think, what can I tell these kids to fix their problem for them? Now, the problem with that is that as soon as adults start telling kids what to do, they shut off. They had just told me that the issue with not being able to watch their shows during the day was because their parents were constantly telling them what to do. So my brain went to, well, let's help them. Let's facilitate a space for them to solve their own problem. So I approached it with curiosity and with non-judgment. And rather than taking a typical adultism stance, which would have been to say, well, you shouldn't do that, and go into listing a bunch of reasons why sleep is so important. Instead, I approached it with curiosity, and I said, well, have any of you ever been successful at getting sleep? And what have you done? What about the days you have been successful at sleeping well at night? What does it look like on those days? What's different? And what solutions, what ideas do you have that could maybe help solve this problem? Because it seems like we're all in agreement that this is a problem for you. And one girl raised her hand and she said, well, something I do, which is really helpful, is I try not to watch anything too interesting before bed, because if I watch something too interesting, I know I'm not going to be able to stop, and I'll want to keep watching one TV show after another until it's finished. So I thought that was a great idea. The other youth also found that really helpful. So giving them a space to think for themselves and giving them the time to try to problem solve on their own can be a really useful tool when working with youth to solve problems. And this comes from a space of curiosity and non-judgment, but it also comes from the assumption that youth are fully capable of solving their own problems if they're given the opportunity. And a lot of times the stance that adults take where they try to solve problems for youth actually sends the wrong message, and it sends the message that youth cannot solve problems for themselves. We sit there and we act like we know the answers, and they start to believe us. They start to believe that they don't have the answers themselves, and they stop looking for them. And that's a huge detriment to helping youth develop their own critical thinking skills. So next time you're working with youth and you see that things may look a little bit out of the ordinary, or you're wondering why they're not fully engaged, just ask them and take it from there.